100% tariffs on foreign films. That is the thunderous proposal that has sent shockwaves through Hollywood and beyond, igniting a fiery debate among the biggest names in the film industry. When Cate Blanchett, a revered actress known for her commanding performances and fearless advocacy, chose to speak out, her words landed like a bolt of lightning. The film world collectively held its breath. What is truly going on behind the scenes? And how does Donald Trump's controversial idea to make movies American again threaten the global spirit of modern cinema? Today, in this deep dive, we will unravel the layers of this startling plan, how it could drastically alter the international partnerships that have fueled Hollywood greatness, how it might affect huge productions that shoot around the globe, and why Blanchett believes this move stands to dismantle the very core of cross-cultural storytelling. Picture a room full of global film executives anxiously studying numbers and scanning the horizon for the next big hit. Suddenly, an unmistakable wave of apprehension surges through them. News of a proposed tariff that could reach a staggering 100% on films made abroad is more than an inconvenience. It is a potential crisis. Some whisper about the possible relocation of entire film shoots. Others about complicated new legal frameworks that might deter creative talents from crossing frontiers. All remain keenly aware that while the movie business may appear glamorous, its machinery is delicate. A jolt in one country can echo in studio boardrooms and production sites halfway across the world. So, why would anyone propose such a drastic measure? President Donald Trump has asserted that other countries are freely harvesting the fruits of Hollywood's success, luring away the film industry with enticing tax incentives and cheaper production costs. In his view, this is not just an economic battle, but a matter of national security, with film carrying messages and propaganda that shape cultural values. He contends that returning film production to American soil could sanctify jobs and restore the true essence of Hollywood. Critics, however, call this plan naive at best and catastrophic at worst. Filmmaking today is undeniably global, with actors, directors, visual effects teams, and entire production crews scattered all across the planet. The question is whether the magic of cinema can survive an insular approach. Cate Blanchett, known for iconic roles ranging from the stoic monarch in Elizabeth to the luminous Galadriel in Middle-earth, has become a powerful voice in the conversation. During a public appearance in London's National Portrait Gallery, she challenged the notion that Hollywood is an exclusively American phenomenon. She underscored how she, an Australian actress, was directed by a filmmaker originally from India, Shekhar Kapoor, in Elizabeth, which was shot in England. The varied roots of that production show how stories are woven from international threads, each unique culture adding nuance. Blanchett sees the proposal of foreign film tariffs as not just a political statement, but a fundamental misunderstanding of how global cinematic works are typically created. She wonders out loud why anyone would long to weaken that sense of unity, especially when modern society seems to need meaningful cross-cultural connections more than ever. It is tempting to dismiss the concept of heavy tariffs on foreign-made films as a passing notion or a dramatic flourish in the swirl of political arguments. The reality is more sobering. Over the last few decades, global partnerships have defined industry success. Take the immense sets built overseas for blockbusters, or the diverse casts that reflect a story's universal aspirations. Even top-grossing American releases often owe their polish and scale to dazzling scene work or location shoots abroad. Will these be threatened if the new tariffs are enforced? That question lingers at the heart of the storm growing within the industry. The ramifications could be far-reaching, from crippling smaller, independent co-productions that rely on cross-border collaboration to discouraging studios from exploring new creative outlets in foreign markets. If you find this troubling and want to stay in the loop about every twist and turn in the unfolding drama, now would be a fantastic time to show your support by sharing your thoughts or even giving this content a like. Together, we can shed more light on these industry-defining events. Foreign productions are not just about cost-cutting. They are creative expansions that bring fresh talent and cultural depth. Cate Blanchett vividly recalls her own early experiences stepping onto sets far from her native Australia, observing how directors and cinematographers from distant corners of the globe enriched her perspective. In her view, the brilliance of filmmaking is often found in that blending of approaches: a script refined in Los Angeles, a cinematographer from Berlin, local crew in London, extras from rural Italy, and special effects wizards from the digital heart of India. All these puzzle pieces fuse into a single cinematic tapestry. Dispose of one piece and the entire image loses its luster. The proposed tariffs threaten to remove a cornerstone of that synergy, unraveling the artistic mesh that has long made the entertainment world so endlessly fascinating. There is also a significant economic dimension here. Although many people deem Hollywood a dream factory that churns out blockbusters with unstoppable momentum, the reality is more precarious. Budgets must be raised, investors want returns, and distribution deals tie projects to specific financial structures. During the production of large-scale epics, location scouts weigh everything from local tax incentives to the cost of orchestras for an atmospheric soundtrack. Trump's proposal to levy stiff tariffs could inflate budgets and hamper international location scouting, which in turn might cause producers to question whether they can afford to capture that perfect, evocative cityscape in Europe or blazing desert in Africa. Cate Blanchett argues that these decisions, once guided by artistry and story, may increasingly hinge on circumventing tariffs. In an industry where a fragile margin can mean the difference between success and failure, that shift is seismic. Yet the voice of the critics is not unanimous. Some supporters of the plan say that reining in global film production will spur a surge of domestic jobs in the United States, from sound technicians in American post-production houses to designers and caterers on set. They champion the move as the perfect remedy for an ailing workforce that wonders why filming so often skips across the ocean. Trump, in statements on his own digital platform, declared that luring Hollywood back to American soil is about preserving cultural influence, arguing that if other nations dominate production, they may also shape the narratives that reach screens worldwide. But is that fear valid, or is it giving short shrift to the abiding passion of storytellers everywhere? According to Blanchett, real creativity defies borders. In her mind, if you limit artistry to a single territory, you prune away the diverse influences that allow narratives to resonate so powerfully on a global scale. Indeed, the worldwide film community is deeply interwoven, and markets are more interconnected than ever. Local storytelling traditions feed into mainstream blockbusters, and the lines between foreign and Hollywood productions have blurred beyond recognition. We have transatlantic franchises produced partly in the United Kingdom, partly in the United States, and partly in other nations brimming with fresh talent. The synergy is mesmerizing. Critics say that the proposed tariffs would disrupt this dynamic, leaving studios uncertain about risking substantial budgets on multinational teams. If the financial incentive for filming abroad is dampened, the variety of stories that find their way to the big screen might shrink. People who crave cinematic experiences from far-off lands could face a narrower range of narratives. For many creative professionals, actors, directors, visual effects specialists, a climate of high tariffs looms like a storm cloud threatening to overshadow their quest for transformative opportunities. Cate Blanchett's concerns do not revolve solely around the top-tier vantage point of an A-list star. She has always championed emerging directors and underrepresented voices, acknowledging that the success of a smaller film can pivot on being shot in specific locales that reflect the authentic soul of a story. When budgets are limited, the specter of a tariff can be crippling. Imagine a budding filmmaker discovering a perfect backdrop in another part of the world, only to relinquish it because the costs associated with heavy taxes undermine the feasibility of the project. Blanchett herself found it enthralling to film in places resonant with the narrative's essence, where she could form genuine connections with local crews who brought intangible authenticity to each movie. Would a tariff-laden environment stifle that spark of authenticity, which elevates a film from competent to extraordinary? One cannot help but recall how Wicked was primarily shot in the United Kingdom, reaping the advantages offered by modern soundstage facilities and skilled technicians. Meanwhile, parts of the upcoming Mission: Impossible: The Final Reckoning have also used European backdrops. The point is obvious. Big-budget American productions have always scoured the globe to find the perfect spot or the perfect talent. If punishing levies are placed on foreign production, will producers scramble to replicate that range of possibilities at home or choose an entirely new strategy? And might that shift hamper the kaleidoscopic creativity that defines the evolving landscape of film? If these burning questions spark your curiosity, feel free to subscribe to make sure you do not miss future updates, because there is so much more to unpack about the mechanics and repercussions of this tumultuous debate. This conversation also merges with broader socio-political issues. Trump's views on tariffs invoke the notion that Other countries are undercutting American commerce, not merely in consumer goods, but culturally as well. Yet culture is hardly a neatly packaged commodity. It is fluid, intangible, shaped by centuries of tradition and current global realities. The idea that film, an art form dependent on the cross-pollination of ideas, can be patriotically repatriated might be at odds with the spirit of inclusivity that has long propelled cinematic achievements. Directors from France, animators from Japan, conceptual artists from Brazil, and stunt teams from Eastern Europe have all found ways to collaborate on American-backed ventures, weaving an unspoken web of mutual enrichment. By limiting that collaboration, some claim we risk severing the lifeblood of invention that has established the film industry as a dynamic global force. Those in government circles supporting the tariff proposal say that the measure could be carefully tailored, so it only applies to certain large-scale foreign revenues. They assert it is not meant to stifle creativity, but to ensure that the United States remains competitive. However, many industry insiders compare it to an ill-fitting puzzle piece. Movie making is notoriously expensive, reliant on delicate financial formulas. Devising new constraints carries the risk of tipping those formulas out of balance. Some critics question whether foreign governments might retaliate, imposing their own tariffs on American films. The result could be a cultural standoff, with fewer Hollywood blockbusters allowed easy entry into large foreign markets. An alarming idea, considering how heavily major studios depend on international box office returns. Meanwhile, amidst the swirl of debate, Cate Blanchett remains firm. She views the cinematic world as one built on the free exchange of craft, knowledge, and artistic insight. As a person who has lived in Australia, the United States, and the United Kingdom, collaborated with creators from multiple backgrounds, and worked on an impressive range of film sets, Blanchett symbolizes the cross-border spirit that has come to define big-screen storytelling in our era. She maintains that restricting the film business to a single geographic region will inevitably curtail the variety of experiences portrayed on screen, from sweeping historical dramas to whimsical fantasy epics. And given her global roots, plus her outspoken championing of humanitarianism, courtesy of her ambassador work with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, Blanchett is arguably the perfect figure to lead a rallying cry for international artistic freedom. But her stance is not about confrontation alone. She asks for renewed curiosity. Why not harness the best that each productive locale has to offer? Why not see the rise of filmmaking incentives abroad as a spur for healthy competition, prompting Hollywood to remain innovative rather than retreat behind economic barriers? Could that approach invigorate an already thriving cinematic tapestry, rather than trying to preserve it behind walls that may ultimately weaken it? For those who believe that stories should soar without constraint, these considerations reach beyond any single administration's policy objectives. They tap into a fundamental question: how do we want our shared cultural narratives to develop in a constantly shifting world? Some who have examined Trump's statements claim that the path to implementing such a tariff would be riddled with complexities. The logistics of tracking precisely which parts of a film were produced abroad could prove nightmarish. Modern blockbusters often juggle multiple filming units, partial shoots in scenic locales, and post-production or digital effects scattered around various corners of the planet. Even smaller, character-driven productions sometimes venture offshore for unique backdrops that cannot be found in the United States. Force them to remain stateside, and you hinder their artistic palette in ways that many suspect will reduce audience excitement. The intangible alchemy of place, local culture, and on-site synergy can generate the distinctive on-screen atmosphere that enthralls viewers worldwide. At the heart of this debate is the notion that the film industry has never been a purely American affair, and Cate Blanchett's life story reflects that truth. She was born in Australia, discovered in Europe, embraced in Hollywood, and found an artistic home in the United Kingdom. The imagination, skill sets, and personal histories that converge to create memorable cinema know no borders. When an actress from one continent portrays a legendary queen from another, under the guidance of a director from yet another region, the result can transcend any single culture and become a story that resonates internationally. Could blanketing such cross-pollination with heavy tariffs ironically undermine the very American advantage it was meant to protect? For many film fans, there's also a more emotional dimension. Movies can translate universal human experiences into narratives that bridge continents. Consider how a film can transform a historical figure from centuries past into a flesh-and-blood character who resonates with a modern global audience. That seamless melding of diverse creative talents is arguably the secret sauce that ensures movies remain relevant no matter where you watch them. Cate Blanchett's worry is that taking a sledgehammer to these delicate collaborations will reduce that timeless magic to a far narrower scope. Blockbuster or indie gem, each film draws on a web of artistic and cultural influences, a process threatened by an overt focus on national boundaries. Here stands the core tension. Is it possible to protect American film by compelling creators to produce only within American borders? Or does such a move risk forgetting what made Hollywood a powerhouse in the first place? The impetus for bold, boundary-defying storytelling has always thrived when dreamers from multiple corners of the globe converge. Trump's proposed tariffs might serve short-term protectionism for certain domestic industries, but what about the larger democratic tradition of free expression? Those who side with Blanchett argue that preserving diversity in filmmaking is not merely about safeguarding big studios' bottom lines, but about protecting the cultural tapestry from which future powerhouse narratives will emerge. In the swirling crosswinds of politics, finance, and art, there's a lot at stake. While the final shape of Trump's proposal remains uncertain, the mere idea has forced countless professionals to question the future viability of cross-continental productions. Industry watchers wonder how, if at all, studio accountants could incorporate potential tariffs into their budgets. Smaller filmmakers remain anxious, as the shift could shut them out of the global market. Meanwhile, critics of the plan continue to question whether a blanket measure can handle the nuances of modern-day filmmaking. And Cate Blanchett's voice, calm but forceful, keeps echoing. Why would we ever want to prevent creative partnerships that can enrich both American cinema and the world at large? The re-examination her question prompts will be crucial in deciding how film production unfolds across international lines for years to come. But as you watch all this take shape, remember that the fight for inclusive storytelling continues to be waged at every level of the industry, from big-budget blockbusters to the humblest indie projects. It is about preserving options for directors, producers, and actors to dream bigger, to step outside their local comfort zone in search of an authenticity that might only exist thousands of miles away. In that sense, the outcry against the proposed tariffs is more than just an economic protest. It is a stand for creative liberty. For a medium that has long soared on imagination, restricting that liberty could be the harshest blow of all. Only time will tell how this proposal matures, and whether it gains traction in the corridors of power. Regardless of the outcome, conversations about the film industry's global nature have never been more urgent. Plenty of unsung heroes are working unseen, location scouts, grips, set designers, and costume makers, whose invaluable contributions might be reconfigured if new legal hurdles disrupt the conventional wisdom of filming outside American borders. It is a puzzle without a simple solution, and perhaps the most essential step is to acknowledge that the creative process depends on fluidity, not immovable walls or unilateral decrees. Some believe that the unity forged by international collaboration in cinema can withstand any political shift, that the shared joy of filmmaking transcends short-term policy changes. Others fear that an avalanche of tariffs might prompt real transformations that hamper future exchanges of talent, stifle projects that are on the brink of realization, and thin out the vibrant mosaic of international storytelling. For film enthusiasts, the possibility of losing that cross-border magic is alarming, and yet, the spotlight remains on determined voices like Cate Blanchett's, who remind the world that cinema is at its best when it embraces the totality of human experience. In the end, we are left with a dramatic confrontation between the universal nature of art and an agenda that seeks to consolidate production within one nation's borders. For those enamored of the expansive, boundary-defying traditions of film, these are uncertain times indeed. Yet there is also a sense of resilience. From the earliest days of the silent era, creative minds have found ways to circumvent or challenge limitations, forging alliances that honor the unbounded reach of storytelling. The real question is not whether imposing tariffs will generate change, it certainly could, but whether such change will further isolate an industry that thrives on openness. Cate Blanchett's words resonate like a clarion call. Let us cherish the complex tapestry that is modern cinema, lest we tear it apart in the name of misplaced patriotism. Shared art belongs to no single land. It belongs to all who contribute their unique visions to something greater. That is the subtle yet profound lesson that resonates from every corner of the global film community. And the conversation is just beginning.